In New Zealand, it feels like BYD has come from nowhere to now be a leader in the EV market. Specifically, the Atto 3 has become hugely popular with a heap of positive reviews. With this in mind, I wanted to speak to some Atto 3 owners to get their insights into the car. So I'm talking to Neil Johns and Matthew Parkin, each an Atto 3 owner. We'll be looking at why they bought the car, the positives, and any negatives. I have a bit of a technical difficulty with my recording software early on in the piece, so I do lose Neil's picture, but I have got his audio. This is EV Quest, and I'm Adrian Maidment. Hello, Matthew and Neil.
Howdy.
Greeting. Thanks for your time. So we're just going to get some ideas about how the car is to actually own after you're buying it. So maybe Matthew to start.
Yeah, I've not had any issues. I've loved every moment. It's the first EV that I've ever driven, so I've not even hired or experienced an EV before. The dream was always to get a Tesla, but in my mind I wasn't going to buy one until it got down to 50,000. And yeah, at the time I was looking at a Leaf just to experience it, just to see what it was like. And the person that I bought my previous cars from, the dealership was closing down, and the salesperson was going on to work for BYD in Dunedin here. So he says, give it a try, and yeah, it was at that price point of 50,000. So it was exactly where I wanted, good range, and yeah, it's everything I've expected and quite a bit more, really.
Oh, yeah. And Neil, Neil, how did you sort of new to EVs as well?
Yeah, similar story to Matthew. The kind of premise behind it was pretty much a financial one at the time. My wife does every other week about 800k on school runs, and so we were looking for something, with everything that's going on in the economy. Okay, so how could we had a few other things that we were looking to address as well. One of them was our fuel costs. And yeah, so it started out being an economical decision, but it's kind of developed, and I guess most people, and Matthew might contest to this as well, into, becoming a bit of an advocate for EVs, because the knowledge incline that you go through being a new EV owner is pretty steep.
Yeah, it's amazing how you hear EV and you think they're all the same until you learn the differences between, the different battery types, the different range, the different charging speeds. There's so much, but once you understand that info, it becomes far clearer. What one's going to suit your needs, because they are all quite different, really.
Yeah, and home charging solutions is massive as well when you're first buying an EV, to understand AC and DC and the kilowatts and the amps and, what's fit for purpose for how you use your car is quite daunting initially.
Was there a key reason why you went with the Atto 3? Apart from maybe the price, or just the price? Because there are a few others now in that sort of price range, isn't there? I guess is the MG.
Okay, so our story was, what we wanted was something that I said about the school run that could diminish the cost of that. We wanted a 4-wheel drive, a tow bar, and 7 seats. So went and drove a Outlander PHEV, because on the face of it, that could work. Do one trip about 50, 60 Ks, and then come back and charge it, and then later on in the day, do the school run again. And then you've got the backup with the fuel for the longer trips, right? Because at that point, there was no Atto. So the choices really were, by and large, within budget, a Tesla or a Leaf. Went and drove it. The 7 seats weren't 7 seats. They were pretty much unusable even for children. So then we started going down the rabbit hole, went and looked at an EV6, and the salesperson wasn't interested in even discussing it because there was no stock at the time. And we went and looked at the new Leaf as well. And to be fair, at that point, if the salesperson, it was smashing it down with rain and they're about to close, if they got us in the car, we might have bought it, interestingly. So we'd already started kind of diluting our wish list, going, well, we can't get 7 seats, we can't get four-wheel drive. So let's work out what we can get, and then we'll work a solution around that. And then I decided to start looking, came home, started looking at MGs, at the MG EV, and then someone mentioned about the Atto. Obviously, like most people, had never heard of it. Our car was in the first 20 cars registered, so we were pretty early on. And yeah, and that was kind of it. And then the Facebook group came up and joined that, and there was a heap of media from around the world and YouTube clips, and decided that ever seeing it or driving it, the right car for us. So it's a bit of a strange journey, really, to spend 50 grand on it and never drive it.
Yeah. They've done an amazing job at, like, people not knowing anything about them, and then you're going, wow, that's the car for me. It's a bit different to the usual knowing a brand well before you buy it. And Matthew, what about how did you around to?
The 50 grand is what, the price tag of 50 grand is what got me interested, to at least give it a test drive. But I was pretty skeptical. Chinese brand, never heard of it. It's like, is it going to be an AliExpress Wish type vehicle, where it looks good in the marketing, but it's a bit second rate actually in the car. But once I took it for a test drive, I previously had a 2015 Outlander. I've had a VW Golf before that, and the Atto drove better, felt better. It was quicker than the Golf with turbo. It had everything. And then the thing that sort of sealed it for me was most banks, or at least my bank ANZ, was offering 1% lending on any green investment. So 1% lending to me, I had the savings for the car, but the fact that I get 3 years of 1% lending, I worked out about $9,000 in interest, where my savings can remain on my flexi mortgage. So I'm offsetting interest. That's an extra 9 grand that went to the purchase price. In my mind, in 3 years' time, I'll that's going to help pay for that. So once I started doing the numbers, and factored in the warranty period of the car, it's going to pay for itself considerably if petrol prices don't go up. If they go up over the next 6 to 8 years, then it's going to pay itself off even quicker. So once I worked that out, it was like, I can't keep driving an internal combustion. Even if the green movement wasn't a positive thing, I still would have done this, because it's going to save me money in the long run. And then at the end of it, if the car is dead in 8 years, the battery, I'll put it in my house and I will use it there, and that will recoup any remaining money if there was anything, because the home batteries are just so expensive anyway. So I've sort of got a plan B if the car in 8 years is just not drivable.
Interesting you mentioned the Outlander, Matthew, because I said about changing your thinking. So our main car was a Kia Sorento 7-seat diesel, 2015, and that did everything we needed it to do. So our compromise was we bought the Atto, and then we bought a $2,500 2007 Outlander that does chuck the dogs in it, drive around the section, tow things. So we realized, like, really that those bits and bobs were 5% of our time. So invest in the main purpose of what we wanted to use the vehicle for. And you're right, it drives so good. I've driven today for 10 hours non-stop apart from charging in it. And I drove the same on Tuesday, and it's just a joy to drive.
Yeah, it is. Long trips have never been so easy. Like the lane assist and the cruise control, I don't even overtake on trips to Christchurch. If I get stuck on a camper van, I'm usually quite excited, because if I'm averaging 70 to 85, I know my range is actually improved. So again, it's more efficient, and the car keeps a distance for me. It keeps me between the lanes on the open road. I just sit there, enjoy. All I got to do is look out for idiots on the road. That's all I have to worry about, because a car, for the most part, does the rest of it for me. And I'm a bigger guy too, and the seats are probably the most comfortable car seats I've had in a car anyway. It's quite good.
What is the range like in the real world for a big?
Depends what you're doing.
Yeah.
For a big drive, like when I went from Dunedin to Christchurch, I had to stop for 14 minutes and that would get me to the destination with 10% left. So, and that 14 minutes, the one time I've done it, it took me 17 minutes to get my coffee, have it, drink it, and use the bathroom. So the stop that I would have normally done in my Outlander, I did in the Atto, and the charge time was less than what I would have normally stopped for anyway. So it added nothing to my trip, but the trip was 1/3 the price.
Yeah. I'd say normal use for us. A mix of kind of 80, 100, that kind of stuff is around 400 in real life range. Although I did get caught out on Tuesday, and we made this trip many times from Northland to Kapiti and back. But I was on my own without my wife, who normally does the Waikato Expressway stint, and I was a bit heavy-footed trying to escape the cyclone, and I crawled into Taupo hypercharged with 2%, and the car went into limp mode. But luckily, because it's a climb, you don't realise driving an ice car how much climbing and going up and down to the regen. So yeah, going down into Taupo for 7Ks saved me from an embarrassing fate of being recovered. But yeah, it was a bad calculation and there's bad driving on my part. But normal use, I think best would be 420, average for us 400. Worst case normally would be 360. That's my maths when I'm working up. Yeah.
What about, look at maybe any negatives from the car?
I would say the only negative I've really found, and it's not overly a negative, is the alerts when you're in Dunedin. We have a lot of very small streets, winding roads and small, very tight streets. So there are certain streets in Dunedin where when you go up them, it will indicate to cars on your left that are parked. No matter what you do, it will beep, 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 just to let you know that there's a collision on the side coming, and you cannot use cruise control at all in those areas because it will just slam on the brakes and slow right down. So I've learned the cruise control is really not useful except on main roads or the open road. But yeah, the beeping, I'm used to it now, but yeah, I know there are 3 or 4 corners I constantly do, and it beeps every single time, no matter how I take it. It just, I don't know if it's the angle or the way the cars are parked, but it will always beep to let me know that there's a car there, which, I'm used to it now, but that was probably the one thing that annoyed me at first.
Yeah, I've had a similar thing, and it was just I was staying at a friend's, and there was a blue car on the corner. So whether it was the corner or the colour of the car it was picking up, I'm not sure. I've had a pretty violent correction from the safety system with the lane keep assist once, which was kind of weird. I mean, it wouldn't make you unsafe, but it's kind of strange that the car's driving more than you are. Other than that, it's only a slight niggle because the anything software can be updated, right? We know that about the car. But from a hardware point of view, I'd really like to have a thumb button on the passenger side to open the doors as well. But it's not a biggie. I'm fit enough to walk around a car, but I'll get the keys out of my pocket and press the button. But yeah, I'm used to having a passenger, the little button that you click on the handle to open the car up. But the app's coming in a couple of weeks anyway, so you can do it from your app. I think the app will make a big difference. I'm trying to be really picky here. The cup holders, maybe.
Oh, they're awful. Their cup holders are awful. You cannot fit 2 BP coffees in the cup holder, and for some people that might be a big thing.
Yeah,
I think probably the other thing, I don't know if you guys recall, but it was a surprise that it came with heated seats. So it was a big deal at the time. So I don't think it was intended to come with heated seats, but I would have liked them to put cooled seats in as well. So I live in Northland, so it can get hot here. Like the car gets really hot. Like if it's left in sun, even with the blind closed and all that, it can be touching the steering wheel can be pretty nasty if you're in 30-degree heat. But we're in New Zealand, right? So it's not a biggie. But I mean, I'm really nitpicking here. Like I don't talk about that stuff with friends or someone goes, "What's your car like?" I wouldn't even think to mention it, but as soon as you are,
Yeah. What about a lot of people within that Facebook group said they had the problem with the 12-volt battery charging, is it?
well, someone ran a poll, and I think of the people that answered, bear in mind the sample's biased because people are more likely to answer if they've had a negative experience. It was something like 7%. I've not had anything. I bought one of those little charger packs that you can jumpstart the car just in case. And if people are watching this, don't keep it in your boot because you won't be able to get into it unless you crawl through the seats. Yeah.
I got one in my boot. Thank you.
No, I love no power, right?
Right.
But not had any issues. And from what I can make out, I'm pretty careful. If the car's charging at home, we lock it. If it's just sat there, I lock it. And we live on a lifestyle block, so we don't lock in us. So just to be safe and not had any issues.
Any final thoughts you wanted to share?
I'd say if anyone is kind of on the fence about an Atto and they've got time on their side and they're not too sure what to do and maybe it isn't 100% suiting their needs, still test drive one, but just hang on for a bit because the Seal and the Dolphin are coming out this year. So the Seal's the sedan, which looks a bit like a cross between a Model 3 and a Kia Stinger, and the Dolphin's a slightly smaller car, which no one knows for sure, but it might come in after a rebate around the 35 to 40 mark, which is going to bust things wide open. So still look at the brand, even if you don't like the Atto.
All I would suggest is to actually give it a drive, and just see what you think, because even if it's not the car for you, it might just get you thinking a bit more seriously about the EVs as an option going forward. And it's at a right time where the government and the industry is giving you money to make that change. So you can sort of jump on now and get quite a bit back off the purchase. So failing the car being a complete failure in say a year or two, it should be a good investment. But the good thing is it is protected by a warranty. So that definitely, and a New Zealand warranty too, like the warranty here compared to Australia, and the team behind the New Zealand BYD brand, they seem great so far, and that's definitely helped.
Okay, Matthew and Neil, that's great. Thanks for your time. That was really informative. A big thanks to Matthew and Neil for taking the time to share their insights into their Atto 3s. Here's another video to check out. If you feel like it, a subscribe would be great. And thanks again for watching the video.